All right, we are back for the next episode of Beyond the Skills podcast, where we talk everything real estate, entrepreneurship, sex, drugs, rock and roll, TRT, gurus, pink and purple hair, you name it. Whatever you want to talk about, we're going to talk about it today. And I got a special guest for you guys. He is recently went kind of viral on Ball Busters.
I got called out on Baller Busters, man, for faking a Rolls Royce.
And that's what I want to talk about today. Like, I need to know about this Rolls Royce, Mr. Tony.
You know, I thought people would be really fooled by this Rolls Royce. You know, I mean, I just thought that if I stuck the logo on the headrest, that everybody would play along, and it would just be like this cool thing, and no one would think anything different. You know,
You didn't make a bunch of money from it?
Man, no. In fact, it probably cost me a few dollars to make that video.
Wow, man. That's unfortunate. No, seriously, guys, we got Mr. Tony, how do you pronounce that?
Whatley.
Whatley here. He's here to speak at the Alliance meetup. Good buddy of mine. Wanted to have him on here. He's a good old boy from Houston, entrepreneur, car guy. Really resonate with the guy because we have a lot of similarities in what we believe in, what we talk about. So wanted to have him on. Tony, I really appreciate you coming, man. Why don't you tell him a little bit who you are before we get into some content?
Well, these days I would say that I'm a 51-year-old that likes to do deadlifts and drive fast cars and skateboard.
That's cool that you're still doing that at 51.
It's cool stuff, man. I'm a big kid, but I enjoy it. I've got that adrenaline junkie type personality, and I just try to have an interesting life. You know, I think too many people choose to be boring, and they pretend that they're older than they are, and I think while I still have all my physical capabilities, I just want to be able to use those things. And my wife and I, we love to travel and go around anywhere in the world. And anything that has wine country, we're probably hanging out there because that's where she likes to go. And
your wife's a wine drinker?
She's a wine drinker.
You,
she loves
you too?
Wine. I sip and I enjoy it, but not crazy about the wine like she is.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial career and background.
So background-wise, I went to school and put myself through engineering school, and I got in the oil and gas industry in Houston, and I worked in project management for over 20 years. But being a car fanatic, and I don't take that lightly, I'm actually a crazy car guy. Like, I build cars, get them in magazines, and I basically said, I'm going to go create a business that still serves the automotive performance community. And so I created ls1tech.com, which grew to the #1 General Motors performance community on the internet. Had over 300,000 members, and then I created performancetrucks.net, which became the busiest drag racing truck website on the internet, and we sold both of those companies for a few million and to private equity in 2007, 2009.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of LS1 car guys out there. You said 350,000. I'm not shocked that.
Yeah. 500,000 members combined on both those websites.
It's like a cult.
It is a cult, and it's funny enough, a friend of mine just started a LS1 Tech reunion Facebook group for all the old timers. We're 20 plus years now, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool. Like, a lot of people are joining it. I think there's like 350 members now, and we're making people post their screen names, because back then we didn't know the fuck their name was. It's like, you only knew their screen names and what they drove. Yeah. We didn't know what their faces looked like a lot of times. So it's kind of cool to see people kind of come out of the woodworks and be like, yeah, here's the photo. I was like, dude, I remember that car, and I remember meeting you at that drag strip and stuff like that. And funny enough, when I was driving here to your house today, I stopped at Buc-ee's before I left Texas, and I was getting some cashews, and I was walking by, and a guy stopped me. He's like, "You're Tony Whatley," and I was like, "Hey, good to meet you." And he's like, his name was Aaron, and he said, he goes, "I've been following you for 20 years on LS1 Tech, and I watch all the 365 stuff." And it's weird getting spotted in Buc-ee's in like East Texas, Beaumont area. So
and that's the power of social media.
Yeah.
It's amazing what social media has done to connect us all. It's such a small world now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But okay. So you exited that business, 7-figure exit. That was in 2008 and 9.
Mm-hmm.
What was next for Tony?
I started focusing more on the executive path in corporate because I was already on that journey. And I said, I invested a lot of time and education and money in school, and I had a lot of experience. And by that time, I was making $250 salary and plus bonuses. And, they were kind of conditioning me and giving me leadership classes and doing all the HR stuff. And I enjoy that stuff because I'm a sponge when it comes to learning things. Anything is a new skill or a new mindset or a new tactic, I'm all for it. Like let me have that. And so I was kind of going to that. I was going to make a push. I was like, I'm going to try to get to a vice president level because those guys get paid pretty well in the oil and gas industry. Man, they'll probably clear between 500,000 to $1 million a year.
Yep.
And I was right there at the edge. I was reporting to those guys, and so I really focused for the next 3 or 4 years, really focused on that. And I still had the 7-figure drop shipping business that I spun off from LS1 Tech because private equity was not interested in retail. They just wanted the database. They wanted the marketing and the advertising business that we created. But I also ran a business on there because I was selling wheels to a bunch of car guys. And when I said, hey, I have this thing that, I still do it under the LS1 Tech company. Do you guys want this? They're like, oh, no, we don't want retail. You don't mind if I just take this with me, the 7-figure business with me? And they're like, oh, you can have that. So I just basically created a new LLC, Deviate Motoring, and that started in 2007, when I had to change the names. And I've had that ever since. And so, that's been a really fun business. It keeps me in the industry. It got me into the SEMA marketing task force for the Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association, big show that goes on in Vegas every year. So I'm still involved in the industry. I still got to do the media and the write-ups of the articles, and it keeps me in that industry, and I enjoy doing that. So I like seeing wheels on cars. I put wheels on everything.
Love it, man. I love it. Yeah, I'm the same way, car guy. Yeah, we talked about that. I grew up in mechanic shops.
Yeah.
I started 4 mechanic shops here in Lafayette and did that for 15 years before I got into real estate full time. So, the car cult in America is strong.
Huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, Houston's got a huge car scene.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Well, look, so you did that from 2000 to what you just said?
That would have been like 2008-ish, 2009.
Okay.
And still focusing on the career things. I left in 2015 in corporate.
Okay.
And that was an industry downturn, and I had a near-death
I remember
experience.
that. 2014 oil went from $128 a barrel to $28.
It was down.
I remember that.
Especially this area. It got really impacted.
We got hammered. I remember that. I almost lost my shops.
Yeah. I used to come to this area all the time for all the machining shops and fabricators and things like that. So I was very familiar with where you live. And it was cool to see the old canals and things, to drive all those old bridges again, because I hadn't been doing it for years now. Yeah.
You said you had I think I interrupted. You said you had a near-death experience in 2015?
Yeah, I was racing cars. I was at the drag strip, and I was in a Dodge Viper twin-turbo car, about 1,000 at the wheel, and it was a shop-owned car, and they couldn't get the number done because the guy didn't know how to launch, and I've got a couple of Vipers myself, and one of them was about 1,200 horsepower, and so they knew I had a lot of experience. I set a lot of national records in the Viper drag racing scene over the years, and so they were like, hey, we got one more pass tonight. We're trying to get a 9-second pass to be the first Gen 5 in the 9s. You know how to drive these things. Can you launch it and get it going? It's like, yeah, throw me the keys. And it's less power than the one I've got. The one I run runs low 9s. So I was like, okay, cool. So it was the last pass of the night. The track's about to close. And launch went really well. Second gear went really well. Third gear, about the top of third gear, the car started kind of getting out of line, but it was still aiming towards the finish line. I was like, man, I can see the finish line. I knew I launched it really well, so it was going to be a 9-second pass. You can tell. And the car started going towards the right side wall. I was in the right lane. It got on the white wall. It started just dragging the side of the car. And I was like, fuck, man, I just damaged this person's car. And, I felt really bad about that. And so I got on the brakes, thinking I'm onboarding this run. And as soon as I got on the brakes, the car went hard left. And now I'm aiming at the Jersey barriers on the other lane at 130 miles per hour. And the car smashed into the wall. And so as I was approaching that wall, I had a real clarifying moment. I even said to myself, well, here I go. And I thought I was going to die in that moment. And of course, impact happens, airbags deploy, just noise, and I just remember feeling like I'm still conscious. I need to get out of this car, because through race training, we understand that most people don't die in impact. It's from fire. You got to realize that when you're in an impact, even on the highway, every fluid that's in your car is flammable. Your brake fluid, your oil, everything, gasoline, like everything's flammable, and all it takes is one spark and you're a fireball. And so I just remember not knowing if I was injured from the accident. I just remember being awake, and the car's still sliding at this point, and I'm thinking, stay awake, get out of the car, stay awake, get out of the car. And finally it came to a rest, and I had to pry that door open because I caved in that front of the car all the way to the windshield. And I got out and I didn't have any major injuries that I knew of, but I was just sitting there staring at the wreckage, and then the ambulance showed up at the, it was at the front of the track. It made it to the back, and it was dark on that side of the track because it was past the shutdown lanes. And I'm sitting in the back of the ambulance, and I'm just going through a series of questions through my head at that time. And the first question is like, I could have died right there. Like, what would have happened if I would have died right there? I'm looking at the wreckage out the back of the car. And the next question that popped up in my mind is like, well, had I died, what would my family think, or what would people think? Like, because I wasn't prepared for this. I was here out racing. I wasn't preparing to die,
right?
And then you start thinking about what's the next logical question. It's like, how would I have been remembered?
Yeah.
How would I be remembered? And for most of us, we tend to look at our peer group and our family and people that were similar to us and that may have recently passed away, and you compare yourself and you go, I was kind of like that guy. How was he remembered? And man, it hit me like a ton of bricks because I had the answer right away, and it was nice guy, cool cars, successful, gone too soon. So it's really simple characterizations, because whenever someone dies and you see them pass away on Facebook and things like that, it's always like, man, he was this nice guy. You hope for that, unless you're a dirtbag. We'll get into that in a minute, right?
Yeah.
But if you're a dirtbag, you hope he was a nice guy. So I was a nice guy. I've always been a nice guy. Successful, yeah, people know that. Nice cars, yeah, I got a bunch of cars. Gone too soon. That's the common phrase everybody has. Unless you're like, when you die, like, if you're 60 or older, you don't get that. That one kind of drops off. But if you're less than 60, man, he died too soon. Good die young, right? And so what was missing from that was impact. And I had to sit with that one. It's like, man, what is really missing? And I know that even everybody listening to this, everybody watching this, we all impact people in our proximity. You'll impact your family, of course. You'll impact maybe your closest friends. Maybe the person that you helped, you gave $100 to one time. You're going to help those people. They're going to be like, oh, he was a good guy. That good guy, right? But what it really highlighted to me was that, and I didn't realize this for probably months after this, it's like, what does impact even mean? Like, it's like a big question. Like, what is purpose? What is meaning of life type question? And so impact to me, through a soul searching and really thinking about how would I best impact people, do I become a philanthropist? Do I help people with something I'm really good at? Do I share my story? Like, all these things are kind of going through my head. And I determined like the best way I'm going to impact this world is based on teaching people confidence and business principles. And so I said, okay, I'm going to write this book. And I'm going to teach people how to start and build their first business, make a 7-figure business.
What was the name of that book?
Side Hustle Millionaire.
Side Hustle Millionaire.
Yeah.
Pick it up, guys. Side Hustle Millionaire.
All of your guests will get a copy today that's coming in tonight. And so that was the initial thing. And here's where it gets funny, because I still didn't like being on stage. I still didn't want to be on camera. I never had interest in that kind of stuff. I respected people that could do it, and I was like, it's not for me. I'll go get rich in the background and hide behind a logo and be just fine. I'll be the MVP in the background. And so the book, and I admit this more recent years, is that it's actually the cowardly way to create impact. And most authors will never admit that, because think about this. Unless you're a celebrity, you could write a New York Times best-selling book and people may not even recognize you. So you would still have privacy and you could still live a life normally. And so I was like, I'll just write this book. And here's the other thing. It's like, if you write a book and it doesn't do well, you're like, hey, I tried. I tried. I gave it my best. I tried. And if it does well, you're like, cool, right? Like, all right. But you kind of hope that it does well, but you don't think it will, right? You have a lot of self-doubt. We all do.
Yep.
And so as I'm writing this book, my editor, and Mike Fallett, he's a good guy.
He wrote my book.
Yeah, he's a good friend of ours. And Mike's reading it, and he's like on chapter 4. I'm sending him a chapter at a time, right? Because I'm writing it myself. And he's like, dude, this book's pretty good. Like, it's going to do really well. I was like, yeah, thanks. I thought Mike's fluffing me up. He's a sales guy. Love him to death. And he's like, and then he says the word. He's like, I think people may want to interview you. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, that was the thing I was trying to avoid. Like, the whole getting in front of cameras and interviewing, it's like, I'm just trying to avoid that. And so I realized, like,
you weren't trying to be like the influencer / guru.
No, and I didn't want to, and you got to realize I'm being driven on the word impact. And I was still playing too small. I was avoiding really my potential to create impact. And potential is like standing on stage, doing these cameras, launching my own podcast, all the stuff I do now, right? And so that phrase, like, you might get interviewed, I was like, oh shit, well, he's right. I'm not comfortable with it, but I need to prepare for it because I like to prepare. I'm a project manager, I'm an engineer. So I was like, I need to get over the stage fright. I just need to get over that. So I joined Toastmasters and I hired a speaking coach, and I did a video on social media every single day for over a year. So 365 Driven, my brand, right? And I said, I'm new at this. I'm not comfortable doing this, but here's why I'm doing it. And I explained to the audience, and I knew that I sucked at it, but I would sit in my truck and do these videos, and I would do 10 takes, and I would just pick the best one that I thought out of those 10 takes, and I would just publish it. And every day I did that. And
post it on social media?
Post it on Facebook, and I didn't do it on Instagram at that time. It was mostly on just Facebook. And people knew that I was like on this journey because they knew that I had an accident. They knew I left the industry, and then they were kind of curious about what I was up to, and people were checking in on me, and maybe thought I was going crazy or whatever. I don't know. And I improved. And anything I do, and you and I had this conversation before, like neither of us half-ass anything. Mm-mm. When we go into something, we're like, dude, I'm gonna hire the guy that can teach me this. It's who, not how, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna do the reps. I'm not afraid of doing the work. I'm not afraid of humiliating myself and being a rookie or a beginner at things. And so I explained what I was doing and why I was doing it, and I did those videos, and I studied public speaking, and I hired a good speaking coach. And here's the thing. Within 6 months, there was a Toastmasters. They do this international competition once a year, and I got third place in Houston area. Like I went through 3 levels.
That's a lot of people.
I went club level, like the area level, then like Houston level. So I won like those 3 levels. And so I went from someone that had stage fright, that had no interest in doing this, to studying and putting in the reps. And then I started to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's like, man, this is actually pretty cool. Like I wish I would have done this at age 18 instead of my mid 40s at that time. And so that's what launched the podcast and the speaking and all these different things. I realized like I can't hide from that word impact anymore, and I have to go do what it takes. And even if that makes me very uncomfortable, I have to go push myself to do that. And that's been my journey since 2017, really.
Wow. So what I see here, I see a lot of personal development.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. And I think we've had this conversation before on your podcast, and when I interviewed you on my coaching group, it all boils down to personal development.
Yeah.
You went and you talked about impact. You did Toastmasters, you hired a coach, you invested into yourself. And I think there's a commonality amongst entrepreneurs is that we're like learning sponges, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, they're hungry for more, and because I interview a lot of entrepreneurs in this podcast, they all have the same story, just a different chapters, right? But it's the same story. They all end up investing in themselves, and like my brand, skilling up, right? That's why I always tell her, hey, you got to skill up. Like it all boils down to skills.
It does.
It really, you raise to the level of your skill sets. There is no luck in entrepreneur. Now you can time markets and have some luck there where you time it and you exit and you make a big rip before the market, but you still have to have the skill to get to that point where you can't exit. So I love that you talking about this, and for my audience, because you guys always know I'm always talking about skilling up, personal development, hiring coaches, reading. Mm-hmm. Dude, I live, breathe, and shit that. Like that's all I do, right?
Yeah.
So and I can appreciate that you talking about that. So let's talk. Now let's go into you went and you're not working for corporate America no more.
No.
So what are you doing now?
The next 2 years, I just really focused on the e-com business, and then I was helping my wife build her real estate company.
Okay, so you guys are in real estate. Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, she does commercial and residential sales.
Gotcha.
Through EXP right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's been doing, I guess, 6 years now.
Nice.
So we were focused on building that. She didn't want to work at corporate anymore, and I didn't either. And there was some ethical things with oil and gas that I started to see when I got to that level, that my signature was becoming the approval. And I didn't like being associated with that. And I saw that how when there was an industry downturn, all the we care about our employees, all that, it's all a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
You're just another number. And I saw them purposely sabotage people's careers at the end of their 20, 30 years to hurt their pension because they were trying to save every dime they could at that time. And so imagine like
that is sad.
Being somewhere working for a major company like, oil companies I was at, 30 years of your life and you're 6 months from the finish line from full pension, and they cut your legs out and lay you off early so they can only pay you out 80%. Like, I saw examples of that. I saw the tears and had to give people the hugs, and I had to give them the bad news, and I didn't like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of risk in working for people.
Big time.
Just like there's a lot of risk in being an entrepreneur. Either way, you're going to take a risk, guys. Either way.
Choose your pain. They're both pain.
And I'm not advocating for everybody to be an entrepreneur, because it ain't for everybody.
No, it's not.
But if either way, you're gonna cut your teeth on a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we've sold a bill of goods to go to college, get a job, and work for corporate America, make multiple six-figure salary, sell off in the sunset with a 401k. I think a lot of America's waking up to that. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, 2020 made everybody realize that they could do a lot more at home.
Yeah. So, well, let's kind of roll into that, right?
Yeah.
We got your entrepreneur story, and I wanted you guys to hear that. But 2020, you're kind of loud and obnoxious like me on social media about how you feel.
I've chilled out. I was actually a little bit louder when I first, got into the public speaking, and I had a lot of anger and a lot of just things on my chest back then, and I've actually kind of mellowed out, but I'm still provocative, and I'm a lot like you, Chris. We just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
And when people say like, I struggle being vulnerable, like, screw that. I was vulnerable when I started my personal brand, and so I'm okay being vulnerable now. And
guys, I want to interrupt you. This is so good. I want you guys to listen to what this man just said, because that is a golden piece of nugget. Say that again about being vulnerable if you want to start a brand and get on social media, about not being fake. Start
being who you are, or just be a better version of yourself. Like, one of the most inspiring things that you'll ever do is take people on your journey with you. So to me, it's a lot like playing 8-ball where you're calling your shots. I think that there's a stupid phrase that goes around us. It's like, hustle hard in silence and let your results speak for you. That's some bullshit. That only applies if you've proven results. Like, if you keep knocking shit out of the park and you do that, then you can hustle hard in silence. But all you people that are lacking accountability and lacking results, hustle hard in silence means that you're giving yourself a potential exit that you can take out, and nobody ever knew you were playing the game. So you can be like,
you're selfish if you do that.
Yeah,
you're selfish if you do that, guys. Oh, I love that you said that, because it's so. I hate when people say hustle in silence and don't tell anybody your wins and grind out.
You're losing in silence, bro, because you ain't showing.
Dude, you live in the 21st century. Like, social media is the new TV, right? Social media is a new Ford Model T. Like, we're in a different time and age. Like, you got the older generation. I remember when I first got on social media, I was kind of anti-social about social media. I was like, that's just for people that are stupid. When I saw the value of how many people you can reach, and then you can make money, and you can build a brand, and you can raise money. I get access to more deals. I influence people. People that are not on social media are selfish.
Or they're scared, man. They're worried about criticism and judgment. That was me. And then,
well, you're going to get judged either way.
You are. And one of the other things that I like to say, one of the things that I make fun of, is the other one is like, well, I don't have any critics. I don't have any haters. Like, because people think that's virtuous. They think like they have no critics or haters. They're a good person. You might be a great fucking person, but because you have no critics or haters means you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything worth noticing. Like, as soon as you do anything worth noticing, no matter how good or negative or whatever, like, you're going to earn. I say you earn the haters and the critics. You earn them.
Yeah.
And I always encourage my group, go earn your haters.
Guys, you heard what he just said. You're hearing from the horse, because I preach this all the time to my coaching clients and my people that come to mastermind. Dude, if y'all not building a brand, y'all are missing the boat. And if y'all not getting haters on social media, y'all are missing the biggest opportunity in world history.
Big time.
Where in the past 100, even 10,000 years can you reach all these people for free?
Never.
No, never.
You had gatekeepers. You had to be born with a certain last name. I mean,
yes. And even 80 years ago, to be able to get in a newspaper, radio, it cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now you get it for free. And look at how the world is changing with all of these people that have these loud or large audience. Joe Rogan, Alex Jones.
Yeah.
They're changing the world because they have a platform now that can't be censored, and they tell their truth. Yeah. And the people that have the largest followings right now are the people that tell the truth, live in the truth, and not are being super controversial.
Yeah.
So for you guys that are staying quiet, thinking you're going to hustle in silence is
not even being controversial, man. They're just telling the truth.
They're telling the truth.
Like you said, they're telling the truth, and then you said they're controversial. No, they're just telling the truth. And people label it. They label it misinformation, and they label it controversy, and they label it conspiracy. But they're just telling the truth.
Well, according to the Communist News Network, CNN, they're.
I thought it was China News Network.
Well, it could be that. It's probably a combination of both, but. According to them, it's all propaganda and, conspiracy theorists. But let's kind of roll into, we've had some weird, strange things going on in the marketplace in the guru world lately.
Yeah, man. It's, the Baller Busters video I was talking about, that was a comedy skit that I put together, and I think it got 250,000 views on Baller Busters in like 2 days. And
I think, is it Baller Busters or Ball Busters?
Baller Busters.
It's Baller Busters? Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought it was Ball Busters. Okay.
Baller, like baller.
Yeah, okay, I got it. For you guys don't know what that is, you need to go follow his account.
Instagram. He's got to follow him.
He's basically fact-checking
the gurus.
All the gurus who are like over
everything.
They're overdoing everything, from how much money
they've been doing that for years. It's an account that's been around for years.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I just started following maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And some of the things that they're saying, I'm like, man, they got some points. Like finally, there's like a fact checking, because there's guys out there, taking pictures in Lambos and saying, hey, if you start trading with me, you're gonna make $1 million your first year. And dude. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, there's so many half truths and they're embellishing. All these online courses and shit, and nothing wrong with it. I do the same thing. I sell courses, but I told my wife the other day, I said, maybe we don't fluff up enough shit, right? Because these guys are getting all the cloud and making all this money, but I think the pipers come to pay right now.
The thing I think about this, because, it's human. We like to compare, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And it's natural. And people's like, oh, don't compare. It's the thief of joy. That's another bullshit phrase. Like we all compare. Animals compare. You have two monkeys sitting there and you give one a banana, the other one's going to be pissed off because he didn't have a monkey, right? A banana. So animals compare, we all compare, so it's okay to understand it. But you can use this constructively, right? And so whenever I look at somebody and I go, oh man, they got way more followers than me, the question that most people don't ask, because they just look the vanity metric, like that number versus my number, which one's bigger? Oh, they have more followers than me. What I look at is depth. So I look at their followers, and they may have 1 million followers, but then I go, who are their followers? And if it's a bunch of people that are attracted by flash and just doing stupid shit and being a fool, like, I don't want to hang out with those people anyway. Well, so I'm glad you have those 1 million followers, because I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be with those people.
Let's be real, Tony. A lot of those guys have bought followers.
Yeah, for sure.
It's bought followers, right? Sure. Because they'll make 1.5 million followers. They make a post, 200 likes. Come on, man.
Or they buy the likes, they buy the
comments,
they buy everything but shares. They haven't figured out how to automate the fake shares yet, because those have to be real accounts.
Sure. But Tony, they're buying everything these days. They're buying clout. They're buying muscles now with the TRT. Everybody's on TRT and saying how you need to take this. And you had said something the other day, there was a post, and I saw it too, that TRT is just the cool buzzword now that's been replaced. Steroids. Dude, you're on steroids.
They rebranded steroids.
Yeah. They rebranded steroids, and now it's TRT.
So, because steroids had that bad stigma outside of the meathead gym. And, but if they call it TRT, testosterone replacement therapy.
Yeah, it's got a cool
buzzword. It's kind of like all these people doing illegal drugs. Yeah. And it's like, that would have been like you would look down on people that were bragging about doing illegal drugs 20 years ago. But now everybody loves it because they call it a journey. So if you do a felony and you add the word journey to it, it's suddenly socially acceptable.
Of course, it's kind of like the Federal Reserve calling it quantitative easing. No, dude, you're printing money.
Stealing.
It's called, you're printing money, dude.
Yeah.
It's all fancy flash and misdirection. It's no different than all these people that are hooked on prescription drugs. I read an article a couple weeks back that half the population is on psych drugs. Yeah, Adderall, Ritalin, Prozac, you name it.
They're going on a journey, Chris. You have to have a different word for Prozac. What does it do to you? And add that plus journey.
They have a chemical imbalance.
We're good. Chemical balancing journey. That's what they're doing. See?
Yeah.
They're doing a chemical balancing journey.
It is turned into a total clown world.
Totally, man. Yeah, even there's there's just so much material here. There's so much material. Like, and I'll give you guys some tools, some tactics, because we like tactics. If you want to know if somebody's got fake followers, real easy to do. Go to socialblade.com. It's free. Create an account with an email address. You can use your burner email address on this. But as soon as you have an account and you can log in, basically, you would select the social media platform that you want to test, and you would type in their username, and it will show you the history of their followers since the account has been tracked. And what you're looking for is these spikes where like 100,000 followers show up in the same week, and then it goes back to zero or negative. A lot of these guys that you have these giant followers, they're actually losing hundreds and thousands of followers every week. And so they have to go buy fake followers to replenish their numbers because they want to stay above 1 million or whatever. So you're looking for, not little spikes could be something that goes viral, but a little spike would be maybe at the most 1,000 follows in a month. That'd be like a normal one. But if they got 100,000 and it's like flatlined and there's like 100,000 here, and like those people are fake as hell, and you shouldn't be giving them your attention. You shouldn't be giving them your dollars for sure. But you know, back in the clubhouse days, a few of us in a group chat were like, everybody's talking about, I got 500,000 followers. Like, fake as fuck.
Yeah. Well, how about the guys on social media on more TRT that would kill an ape?
Yeah.
Telling you that if you ain't got a six-pack, you can't work for me. Or if you ain't got veins in your shoulder, you're just a pussy.
I don't know about you, Chris, but I actually take my shirt off just to read those posts. I mean, I figure, you know, hey, if he's calling out six-packs, I'll just show mine. The way I feel like I'm really getting some value out of those posts.
Yeah.
You know?
It's I know another thing that we were talking about, like that's things that people say that are absolute bullshit. I hate when people say, you'll never find somebody doing better than you talking about you. Dude, that is the biggest camouflage for like, you are full of shit. Dude, if you are acting like a fucking clown, everybody's going to talk about you.
Everybody.
Above you, below you, everybody's going to talk. Maybe people that are billionaires might talk about you because they're so freaking busy. But dude, if you're creating a bunch of antagonism, and that's what they're doing, they're creating antagonism and using this clout via...
It's gaslighting.
It's gaslighting. It's all gaslighting. And that's why I wanted to bring you on and we had to talk about this, because I think you younger guys, don't get caught up on all this bullshit with all these influencers, right? What's the difference between a fucking influencer and a guru? I mean, the definition of guru is somebody that's really good at what they do. Yeah. And I say guru, I'm probably mixing those words. I need to... I
spell it different. I spell it Gooroo, like guru.
Yeah, there you go. But a real guru is somebody that understands and has mastered his craft. Correct. I would consider myself a guru in real estate. I'm really good. I've been doing it for a long time, since I was 25. But an influencer...
We're going to call you Guru'd.
Guru, there you go. Guru. Write that down, Mama Rood. Guru. An influencer, Tony, is somebody that's got a bunch of followers influencing people because they have a bunch of followers, but then
they seeded the farm and bought their fake followers.
And all of a sudden they become an expert on everything.
Everything.
Between marriage, real estate, business.
Some of these names that have been
politics,
cars. Like I'm a car guy, and anytime somebody in the guru space like talks about cars, especially when they get technical. It's like, oh, bro, just stay in your far right lane because you're in the slow lane, bro. You shouldn't even talk about cars.
Well, here's the funny part. So about probably 3 years ago, I quit letting influencers come speak at my events because it was the worst information. You could tell they weren't in a business. Like you can't fake being a businessman. No. I can tell, like right when you start your shit, I'm like, oh, this dude's trying to sell a bunch of courses.
The giveaways, they don't mention the name of their companies. Like, isn't that weird? Like the e-com guys are the worst. Like, they don't even tell you their company names. It's like, did you even have a company?
Yeah, it's out of control. So Patty and I decided we're not going to have anybody who has a bunch of high follower count to come speak at our event because they give the worst information because they're not in the game. They're professional social media marketers and clowns. And that's what I wanted you guys to hear. Yeah. You got to understand the real amongst the social media influencers and your internet marketers. Internet marketers masquerading as entrepreneurs. You understand?
That's a mind twist, but yes, I agree.
They're internet marketers masquerading, pretending to be entrepreneurs.
True.
And what businesses, like I can name a bunch of guys, I ain't got to call people out because it's just, I'm not dirty like that. But the point is, these younger guys are being bamboozled into thinking and that they can get results that are just not possible.
You know, another problem I see that's related to that is that there's a whole lot of people That's probably understated. There's a whole lot of thousands of people that want to build their personal brand. And that's not a bad thing. I think everybody at every level should, but they're portraying that they've achieved something more than they have. And they're trying to become famous before they've actually created any kind of real result.
That's so good. That's just so true. Guys, listen to this. Repeat that again, Tony, because this is really, really good.
So we got too many people that are trying to become famous before creating a result. And then it starts to cloud the pool with people that actually have gotten results that decided later to maybe get some fame, right? Like you achieved things before you decided to fire up a camera. I achieved things a long time ago before I decided to fire up a camera. And because I'm driven by impact, just like you are, we want to help people and we know how to do this. We're going to get attention. We understand the leverage that comes with that, the opportunities that come with that, but it's all backed by things that we've actually done, you know? And a good leader is not going to tell somebody or suggest to somebody that they haven't done themselves.
Yeah. We have results, right? You have a track record. I have a track record.
And I stay in my lane.
Yeah.
You know, people come to me and ask me for stock investments. It's like, bro, you talk to the banker guys. Like, I don't deal with that shit, you know?
Yeah, same here. I mean, I got quite a few followers. I have 150,000 real followers between Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. But I don't pretend to be an expert at everything.
No.
Right?
And you stay in your lane.
Yeah. Like, if people ask me questions all the time, I say, hey, dude, I don't know. I've never done that before. And I ain't going to pretend to know something, give you advice on something I've never done before.
But that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of that I don't know answer. And so they always come up with some stupid, they give you a stupid response instead of just going, hey, you know what? It's not my thing. Like I said, I'm okay putting myself out there and showing myself as a beginner in things.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that's lacking, especially in the youth that are trying to be famous. Like, it's okay to suck at things, man. Like, too many people think it's a lateral move. Like, let's say you're exceptional at playing the guitar. You're like, man, I'm really good at guitar. And you go, you know what? Now I decide I wanted to go learn the trumpet. And people think that they just move laterally. Like, I'm really good at guitar. I'm a beginner at trumpet, but I should be treated the same as a good trumpet player. They want to skip that down at the bottom and work their way up again. And to me, that's the most exciting part. And if you just tell people, hey, I'm really good at guitar, and I suck at trumpet, and I'm willing to take some beginner lessons, and you're going to watch the progress, they're going to have so much more respect for you watching you go through that.
Well, being vulnerable, honest, and authentic about where your weakness is at. You know, Patty would get mad at me all the time because on lives I would tell people how hard it is. Like, dude, this shit is super hard, what I do. Like, most of you are going to fail. The fail rate is this. It is what it is, right?
50% year two.
Yeah, easy, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's got to be, and I kind of want to circle back to ball busters. Like, I don't agree with everything ball busters say. Sometimes they probably over exaggerate some of the influences, but they do have a lot of truth in what they're exposing, right?
They do.
Because there's a lot of bullshit scammers out there that have scam. Dude, I know two right now that have scammed for like over $50 million and all kind of
crap.
Yeah, like big money between two guys, and they got away with it, right? And internet marketers, right?
Yeah.
So you young guys better pay attention to, because it's getting easier and easier to scam people.
Well, here's the thing, Chris, is that we talk about skill up, right? Influence and manipulation.
Ooh, that's so.
They're the exact same skill. Influencing people and manipulation are the exact same skills. And you can learn that by reading the 48 Laws of Power and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Both great books. I love those authors. But what it always goes back to is intent. It's just like when you're going through a trial in a court case, you may have done something that's a felony, but they look at the intent. Is that murder or is it manslaughter? Yeah. Right? And they look at the intent, and that's the severity of your punishment will be based on your intentions. Did you premeditate this? So the same skill set, I think that people need to learn how to influence if they have the right intent, because when you start to learn the tactics of influence or manipulation, you really start to spot the bullshitters and the tactics they're using against you, so you defend yourself.
You know what, Tony, I've been saying this for years now, and I've read all those books, by the way, great books. Especially, I've read all of Robert
Greene's awesome.
I've read all his books. No, I haven't read the one on war. I'm reading that one. That's good. The 33 Laws of War, I think. The older I get, the more I realize that most, but not all people, are absolutely full of shit.
We look at them through a different lens. When we're younger, we always give people the benefit of the doubt, and we think everybody's got money. Somebody made that post. They said, New entrepreneurs are always trying to collaborate and they think everybody's got money. That's true, right? When you're young.
Yep.
Older entrepreneurs think everybody's broke and full of shit.
Yep.
So it's true.
No, that is such a good point, because when I was younger,
you're always thinking like, I gotta go network. I gotta go meet these people.
Yes, I thought everybody had good intentions.
These
guys
money.
are so rich.
Everybody's got money.
So about 8 years ago, I started speaking, in different stages and stuff. And I was like, man, all these guys are way more successful than me.
Yeah.
And they're so successful. And then you realize, no, these dudes are broke dicks. Internet marketers masquerading.
Usually the fancier they dress at these events,
And it's not until like now, I'm 43 and I've been in the game for a while and I know all the influence. I know, dude.
Yeah, you've seen both
most
sides.
of them are full of shit.
Yeah.
And they've made all their money on the internet. They haven't started a real business. I've started real businesses out of the back of my truck multiple times and scaled them to 7 figures. Yeah. Multiple times.
They don't want to hear that.
No, it's hard work.
That's work,
It was freaking hard. It was brutal.
They could just go on TikTok and do some little dance thing and paint their hair pink and buy 1 million fake followers and then tell you that they know this industry and this industry and this industry and
then tell everybody that
and then drop a $9.97 course and
with a 6-pack on TRT.
Yeah, and wear medium pants and there's like a checklist, right? We have it seems like this reoccurring theme here.
It is, and it's like if you're on TRT, you have a high follower account and you scream at people on social media, you've made it.
Yeah, and if people challenge you just scream louder and you go, oh, they're all haters and they're doing less than me.
Your mindset's messed up.
Yeah.
Nobody talks lower. If you're, it's because people don't talk. If they're below you, they're only going to talk about you.
Yeah,
you can't make this shit up.
The word salad. Yeah, it is a good clown show. But I think that we needed to see this stir up. It's been more really the last year, I would say. That people are really starting to see the BS. And it's not only just the coaching space. We're seeing that in the movie industry. We're seeing that in sports where I think people are just tired of all the bullshit.
Yes.
And so you're seeing it as a widespread thing that people are just starting to call out the nonsense. Finally,
that is so true, Tony. The whole world is waking up to bullshit.
Yeah.
Disney is full of shit.
Exactly.
All the major media outlets are full of shit. Hollywood, absolutely full of shit. ESPN, full of shit. Everything is gone woke. Everything has to tell half truth. Everything you have to pussyfoot about what you say.
Identify as something you're not and force everybody else to believe the same thing.
And if you're really good at something and you're better than people, you got to be humble so you don't make people insecure. Like another fucking stupid shit I hear all the time. Be humble and this and that. If you're not humble, you're a terrible person. That is for fucking weak, insecure people. If you are really good at something and you are confident, there is nothing wrong with standing up and say, "Hey, I'm the baddest motherfucker here," and everybody else should fall in line and mimic that guy because you need people like that because they carry society. It's called nature, motherfuckers. The biggest and baddest buck in the woods gets to mate with all the girls, and it creates nature. Same thing with entrepreneurs. Let the biggest and baddest entrepreneur win so you can copy him.
Yeah.
And best practices. But what happens is we got to have trophies, we got to have participation awards. Everybody has to stay the same. The world's become pussified. It
makes me sad. It makes me sad to know how many millions of people out there have real potential to be exceptional at what they do. And they're probably already there at that skill level, but they're so afraid of coming out and having this bright light about them or high energy about them because they've been asked to dim their shine to make other people feel better about themselves.
So good.
And so imagine all these people listening, watching this, they're exceptional at what they do, but they don't want anybody to know because they want to be humble, this false humility thing, because they don't want to hurt loser ass feelings.
I have a thing in my phone. Give me my phone. It talks about something about humble. I want to talk about this because I think this is a huge misunderstanding about, when somebody comes out and says you have to be humble, right?
Yeah.
What that means.
There means like, hey, you're making me uncomfortable with your success.
Yes.
And please tone it down so I don't have to feel this challenge. Because deep down inside, the person that's asking you to be humble, they know they have the same capability as you, but they don't have the same effort or drive as you.
I wrote this. I keep it in my phone. I keep a lot of Stoic quotes in my phone all the time to remind me, just to try to sharpen my skill sets. And I'm always trying to improve my character, right? It says, weak people need you to be humble.
Yes.
Displays of strength shame them and expose their inadequacies. Anyone who insists that you be humble has their own best interests in mind, not yours.
Absolutely.
I read that to myself once a week.
Yeah.
And I have all these quotes in my phone that are really pertinent to life. And there's so many half-truths, there's so much bullshit. Like, humble, yeah, there's a time and place to be humble. But to be humble because you're good at something or because you make a lot of money or you're doing well in life is ridiculous.
The thing is like people create their own definition of the words. So humble has its own definition. If people were to look it up, it probably means just, you're not putting yourself above other people and looking down on other people. You're blending in. You're being a productive member of society, and you can be a performer. But what they've done is they've replaced the word humble with arrogant.
So good.
So they think like, don't be arrogant, but they're using the word humble, which 2 different words, 2 different meanings. And yeah, don't be arrogant. Arrogant's different. Arrogance being an elitist, that's like everybody's a piece of shit. If they don't have a 6-pack and they're not going to work for me, that kind of shit. Right?
Yep.
That's arrogant.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I make way too much money. I don't have to listen to you. That's arrogant.
Yep.
That's not being humble. Being humble is still being able to perform, but also respect everybody at every level.
Yep.
But
don't downplay who you are to make other people feel safe.
Now, like going back to the shining light thing. So when you're shining really brightly because you're performing at something and people recognize that, the other people will tell you to dim the shine because you're starting to illuminate the darkness within them.
Ooh, so good. Say that again, Tony. You're dropping some bombs here. Say that again.
So people that tell you to dim your shine, it's because your bright light is illuminating the darkness within them.
It pulls out their insecurities.
And they don't like to see that darkness. And so they, instead of them putting on sunglasses and just dealing with it with the way they should, they're going to ask you to turn your light down.
So good. Me and my wife were talking about this today, a matter of fact, that we were talking about how people, they get so insecure and beat up around people that are doing well.
Yeah.
And they get insecure to the point where they start becoming haters, where their mindset is so messed up. Whereas somebody like me, when I see somebody's crushing it, I'm like, I get inspired. I'm like, what does that man know that I don't know? What does he do that I can figure out how to do?
Yeah.
But then you got some people, like I get people all the time, it's calling me a scammer. I got something happened this week and people calling me a scammer because I bought a house cheap or something, or it was a bunch of bullshit. But shit like that happens to high performance people all the time. All the time. Because those people accusing me of, being a scammer or so whatever it may be, it's like, where's your mindset at?
The whole wholesaling industry as a whole gets labeled that by people that don't know the industry.
They don't know the industry. And my wife says something really good. What you don't understand, you tend to criticize.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, and I think this is good for you younger guys, when you see a successful man or a successful guy that's even your age doing better than you, ask yourself, what does that guy know that I don't know?
Yeah.
How can I figure out what he knows instead of just being, hey, he's got it. Oh, he must have cheated. He must be a scam artist.
Well, even that, you and I can both learn from people we dislike. That's another thing. Like, so yeah, you're talking to the younger audience right now. There might be people you dislike that are successful. Yep. Even some of the people we've kind of made fun of in this episode, we've learned certain things from them. It's not always good things, but
absolutely,
we can learn bad things from them too, like what not to do. That's still constructive. So I've had teachers, I've had professors, I've had people that were supervisors at my companies that I disliked, but I learned a lot from them. So you always have to kind of make sure your eyes and your ears are open.
Yeah, so true. Got a couple more questions before we wrap this up, Tony. This has been good, man. We've been dropping some bombs here for these guys. So what does skill up mean to you?
It's always investing in something. It's, think about this. You're whatever your current situation is in life, financial. Let's focus on financial. Whatever your current financial situation is, whatever your compensation is based on the skills or the value you've created in this world. Nobody likes to hear that when they're working their way up. But even when I was a broke ass working at McDonald's, flipping burgers, I knew that I wasn't going to be doing that forever. So while I was there, I was the best damn burger flipper and the best fucking person that cleaned that floor and cleaned the toilets in the women's room, which is a fucking nightmare. I just did everything the best I could, and I knew that everything was temporary, and I was learning new skills, and I was learning new confidence and abilities, and they were giving me more authority roles and management and stuff. So you work your way up through things. So if you're not happy with your financial situation, it's because you haven't invested in skills.
Ooh, so good.
You haven't invested in the skills. And so I've made multiple 6-figure careers out of just hobbies. Think about this. Taught myself photography, and I was shooting for magazines, like major magazines. I taught myself Photoshop, and I've made so many different graphic designs for different companies. I taught myself how to code HTML. I can't even tell you how many websites, made a lot of money on websites, and all these little skills I kind of just keep creating. Like public speaking is another skill. A lot of people see a good public speaker or someone that's doing interviews, and they go, "Oh man, they're so talented. They're so talented." Like, no, dude, it's skill.
Yeah.
If you decided you wanted to go learn Cantonese, you don't have that skill right now. But if you learned it and you became really good at it, would they go, "Man, you're really talented at Cantonese"? Like, no, you learned it. So all these things are skills. Quit wasting your time on bullshit that doesn't create income if you don't have it. If income's your problem, like this week in Super Bowl, there's going to be a whole lot of people sitting around, screwing around, getting drunk, wasting probably thousands of dollars to host parties that haven't figured out their own financial problems.
Tony, I don't even know who's playing in the Super Bowl.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that's it.
So Taylor Swift, she's gonna get more screen time than any player, guarantee.
All right, one last question. We'll wrap it up. What does allies mean to you?
Man, that one's hard. That one's tough because I've had people that I thought were allies along the way that show who they aren't, and that's probably a skill up. Your skill up and your allies thing, I think, combined there, because sometimes you skill up enough that your allies change.
Ooh, yeah, 100%.
And we've seen that. You out earn or you outgrow people, and they don't want to come along with you. And it's not that they're bad people; they just can't hang, and they just feel uncomfortable because your light is shining too bright. So, I think allies is it's a positive word that I would hope that means something, but I kind of don't put a lot of value into that anymore, because the people that have shown me who they truly are over a decade have earned that group, that allies.
That is so good. I want to repeat that for the audience. When your light shines too bright, you're going to make people insecure.
Yes.
That's a big
takeaway. At every level. It doesn't go away.
No, it never goes away.
It never goes away.
Tony, where can they follow you at?
Go to my website at 365driven.com. That's also the title of my podcast, 365 Driven.
Make sure if you watch this, give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me a comment. If you don't like it, I don't care. You can tell me how shitty I am, and maybe you think I'm full of shit, and maybe Tony's full of shit.
Yeah, make fun of us in the comments.
It's all good. Yeah, maybe
talk mad trash. We'll even reply.
Yeah, it's all good, but just leave a like. Give me something. Give me some love for this. But if you need help with your real estate game, I am a certified guru. I know what the fuck I'm doing.
Guru'd.
I'm Guru'd, and I can help you with your game. Go to chrisrood.com, book a call with me, or come out to an Allies Mastermind. I'll help you scale up. Peace.